Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating source material behind one of the most dramatic corporate roller coasters of our time. We're going to be looking at the architecture of strategic capital. Or, in simpler terms, we're looking at how Tesla managed to navigate immense, almost unbelievable risks to become a global leader in electric vehicles. If you've ever wondered how radical, world-changing innovation actually gets funded, and more importantly, how it survives its most vulnerable stages, well, you are definitely in the right place. We've got some incredible data and wild stories to get through today, so let's get started. To really understand this whole story, we have to start with a foundational operational philosophy. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. Now, this quote from Elon Musk perfectly captures the journey we're about to explore. According to our sources, this isn't just some catchy motivational poster to hang in a boardroom. It is a core psychological strategy. Embracing the risk of failure is treated as absolutely essential for true, radical innovation. Basically, you have to take massive, terrifying chances to unlock the potential for a massive positive outcome. All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, the PayPal pivot. To get to the genesis of this electric revolution, we actually have to travel all the way back to the year 2000. It's a moment of intense corporate drama. While literally on a flight to Australia for a vacation, Elon Musk was abruptly ousted as CEO of PayPal by his own board. The issue? A disagreement over server architecture. But here is the amazing irony of that whole situation. That exact ousting gave him the capital to pivot. Because when eBay later bought PayPal for $1.5 billion, Musk walked away with $180 million. And instead of just retiring on a beach somewhere, our sources note that he started asking himself, what are the problems that are likely to most affect the future of humanity? That sudden influx of capital gave him the freedom to shift his entire focus towards solving massive global issues rather than just chasing a quick profit. Which brings us to Section 2, funding a radical vision. So back in 2003, the automotive industry was famously static. General Motors had recently recalled and physically destroyed their EV1 electric cars. But the founders of Tesla, they saw a massive opening. They wanted to fundamentally break the old rule that said high automotive performance had to equal low fuel economy. So, in 2003, Tesla was incorporated by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. The very next year, in 2004, Elon Musk joins the fold, leading their Series A investment round with $6.5 million of his own money and stepping in as chairman. By 2006, they boldly announced their master plan to the world. And it all builds up to 2008, an incredibly critical year where Roadster deliveries finally begin and Musk officially takes over as the CEO of the company. Now, there's a really important shift we need to talk about in how a company like this actually survives. On one hand, you have conventional institutional finance, your traditional localized bank credit. But radical innovation is inherently way too risky for standard banks, right? They typically run fast in the other direction from ventures with a high likelihood of failure. So innovators have to adapt. On the other hand, you have what our sources call strategic capital mobilization. This is a multidimensional ecosystem. We're talking personal reputation networks, leveraging social capital, and finding mission-aligned investment. Tesla couldn't just go down to the local bank. They had to orchestrate a highly complex network of capital to scale their vision. It proved that funding the future literally requires an entirely new financial playbook. But, even with all that strategic capital, things got incredibly perilous. Section 3, surviving the 2008 crucible. The year 2008 was an absolute nightmare for the global economy, and for Tesla, it was almost the end of the road. Musk himself later admitted he gave the company less than a 10% chance of success. They faced a very real 90% chance of total, absolute failure. The stakes were unimaginably high here. Imagine needing immediate multi-million-dollar financing just to keep the lights on and avoid bankruptcy. It got so bad that the popular website The Truth About Cars launched a literal Tesla death watch. The cash burn rate was completely out of control, which led to some really desperate restructuring. To lower the burn rate, Musk was forced to fire 25% of the employees. They were days, literally days, away from total collapse. So how on earth did they escape this crucible? Well, it was a masterclass in orchestrating networks of strategic lifelines. First, check out this incredible irony. Daimler AG, the maker of gas-powered Mercedes-Benz vehicles, stepped in with a $50 million equity stake that Musk said literally saved Tesla. Then, the U.S. Department of Energy provided a massive $465 million interest-bearing loan, which, by the way, Tesla paid back early in full. That was followed by a $226 million initial public offering on the NASDAQ. And get this, it was the first IPO for an American carmaker since Ford, all the way back in 1956. And finally, Toyota threw in another $50 million in a strategic partnership. So it was this totally diverse web of competitors, government support, and public markets that actually kept them alive. And that leads us right into Section 4, scaling the master plan. Once they had those financial lifelines secured, Tesla could finally shift gears. They weren't just trying to survive the week anymore. They could actually begin executing a long-term, sequential strategy they had mapped out years prior. This three-step process systematically de-risked their radical innovation. They did it by building capital and technology in stages. So step 1 was the Roadster, a premium, high-priced sports car aimed at early adopters. The revenue and the tech from step 1 directly funded step 2, mainstream luxury sedans like the Model S and the Model X. And the success of those, that funded step 3, an affordable, mass-market vehicle. They didn't try to build the cheap car first. They built the brand and they built the war chest, step by step. But getting to that mass market stage, that brought its own existential threat. Section 5, the Model 3 bottleneck. Just when it seemed like Tesla had everything figured out, the 2017 rollout of their mass market car, the Model 3, plunged them right back into what Musk famously called production hell. Trying to scale up for the masses almost destroyed the company all over again. They were hit by an absolutely devastating systems integration failure. A severe bottleneck popped up in one of the 4 zones of battery manufacturing, all due to an issue with a subcontractor. It was a complete disaster. Top engineers had to be entirely reassigned, and they were forced to rewrite the entire software for the battery module completely from scratch. This bottleneck severely delayed production and absolutely terrified investors who were watching the clock and the bank account. $8,000. Let that number sink in for a second. To put that terror into perspective, during the absolute peak of this 2017 Model 3 production bottleneck, our sources note that Tesla was burning through money at a rate of $8,000 every single minute. That is $480,000 an hour, just trying to fix the line and get cars out the door. The pressure must have been completely unimaginable. Okay, let's look at the aftermath in Section 6, the innovation ecosystem. Surviving that massive bottleneck wasn't just a sigh of relief. It was actually the catalyst for a triumphant transformation in the global market. Because they didn't just build cars, right? They successfully built a self-sustaining innovation ecosystem based on 4 core pillars. First, they utilized social capital leverage, really maximizing Elon Musk's vast personal reach. Second, they benefited from digital platform democratization, taking pre-orders directly from consumers online to prove demand before they even started manufacturing. Third, they engaged in multi-sectoral partnerships, like working hand-in-hand with Panasonic and other global entities. And finally, they attracted mission-aligned investment, meaning money from people and funds that genuinely wanted to see sustainable energy succeed in the long run. And the proof that this ecosystem worked? It's completely undeniable. In 2018, they delivered roughly 245,000 units, which made them the world's best-selling plug-in passenger car manufacturer. By 2019, that number jumped to over 367,000 units. And by 2021, they were selling well over 936,000 electric vehicles. This proves that orchestrating a multi-stage de-risking strategy is what actually builds a world-leading company. It catapulted them into becoming the world's most valuable automaker, and it transformed strategic capitalization from a nice theory into massive, tangible success. We've seen how this company walked the razor's edge of bankruptcy multiple times. They relied on unconventional funding, brilliant staging, and an absolutely incredible tolerance for risk to change an entire global industry. Which brings us to this final, provocative thought to leave you with today. In a world that constantly demands perfection, is the willingness to fail actually the ultimate strategic capital? Think about that for a bit, and we'll catch you next time as we continue to explain the forces shaping our world.